Os YouTube. Today we'll be talking about Pokemon, one of the world's large multimedia franchise. I'm sure you know about it, from video games to anime to plushies to lunchboxes. It's a franchise that appeals to people of all ages. People like Pokemon, no matter how much the internet might lead you to believe differently. Whether that's a good or a bad thing is your own personal opinion. And with all of these ways to enjoy Pokemon, one of my favorites is the manga. Pokemon Adventures, or Pocket Monsters Special, is a manga that's been running since 1997, just 1 year after the game's initial Japanese release, and it spans every mainline Pokemon generation up to Scarlet and Violet. Individual arcs for each dual release that might get expanded upon for their third version, or it might just get its own plot to itself. A cast that constantly changes, but past protagonists return every now and then. Truly Pokemon media that a lot have wished for but only have cursory knowledge of. But for this video, we're taking it back to their first completely original story for this video game review. This game review of Pokemon Yellow will pay homage to Pokemon Special Yellow Chapter. I was originally planning on tackling this game back when I did my old Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue manga review, watch that at your own risk, but computer failures and crushed spirits are hard to bounce back from. However, with all of that time in between, I've come up with a fun alternative. Can you beat Pokemon Yellow only using Mons from the main characters of that arc, meaning Yellows, Reds, Greens, and Blues? I'm only allowed to use a Pokemon that they had on their teams, not if they caught them, but if they used them. Because those boys and girls actually complete the Pokedex, so that wouldn't be much of a challenge now, would it? However, let me state once again, this is mainly a review. If this was an actual challenge video, the challenge would probably be to only use Yellow's team because the only Pokemon they evolve before their fight with Lance is their Raticate. I'm not going through the whole game with just a Caterpie. I refuse. But to keep things in line, Yellow's Pokemon will make up most of the team. Now that everything's laid out, we can finally start our adventure, and since Yellow is a manga original character and not an option, I'll just be me, Hawk. The land of adventures and dreams awaits us, and so does an SNES. This was my first Pokemon game, so the bit that they do with every generation of the Nintendo home console being right there hit right at home with me. The game starts off pretty open by just telling you that the local professor is looking for you, but he's nowhere to be found. So as you aimlessly wander around, he suddenly pops up to tell you that you've made a grave mistake by walking into the tall grass. That's where random encounters happen, and for Pokemon Yellow specifically, the game gives you a demonstration. He catches our mascots and escorts us back to his lab. He plans on giving us a Pokemon, but as we're about to claim it, just like my motivation, the Pokemon is snatched away and I'm pushed against the wall by his grandson, Gary. Thankfully, Oak gives us a Pokemon he recently caught, the Pikachu. And because Red's Pikachu has a nickname, we shall name ours Pika. In terms of the manga's narrative, Red is missing and Pika has to go on a mission with Yellow to track him down, so he's kind of a special exception to the overall narrative of this run. It counts as Yellow and Red at the same time, but it's fine. Our next task is to run an errand for Professor Oak, but before we can do that, his bratty grandson wants to battle us. As a role-playing game, Pokemon is almost as easy as they come. When I think about other games out at the time, the only thing really special to it is the collection and sharing aspect. Being portable on the Game Boy and split into two also helps its image. Collecting monsters wasn't inherently new, but its simple to understand approach really does ease players in. But at the moment we don't really have a lot of options to go over, so we'll just call this battle GG easy and be on our way. And with that out of the way, we head off to Route 1. One of the things I've come to appreciate about Pokemon Yellow is the speed at which the game is able to teach you its mechanics organically compared to the original release. 15 different types of Pokemon, with some having 2 at once, all with their own strengths and weaknesses, some being super effective, half as strong, or not even be able to take damage at all. This all affects the moves that your Pokemon learn as well as granting you extra power if both their typing and move matches up. With Pikachu by your side, the Pidgey that rests in Route 1 are the perfect learning tool. The electric type Pikachu plus the electric move Thunderbolt times the flying type Pidgey equals fried chicken. And that's all we really need to worry about on Route 1 for now. And we've made it to Viridian City. A Pokemon Center works to heal your Pokemon, and the Pokemart sells you items such as potions and status effect heals, health draining poisons, paralysis, and more, all with their own extra side effects tossed on top. This little dip your toes section at the start of most Pokemon games is a nice little demo of things to come. And when you head back to Pallet Town, you can already appreciate the world design that lets you choose to save your time by bypassing a lot of tall grass. But once we return the old man his ball, his dick of a grandson also returns. He entrusts both of us with the Pokedex, an electronic encyclopedia that records information on the Pokemon we've seen and caught. He's too old to live out his dreams, so he pushes it onto us, the youth. Gary, being who he is, declares that he doesn't need our help, so we're left alone to travel the region ourselves. We skip our way back to Viridian City, and the path that was once blocked by a fallen and possibly drunken old man is free now. The awakened old man apologizes by teaching us how to catch Pokemon. In the other versions, I can see how this tutorial makes sense, but in yellow it's a bit repetitive. The catching mechanic of Pokemon is pretty simple. You can only catch wild Pokemon you find on the map by throwing your Pokeballs at them. Different Pokemon have different catch rates, and the best way to catch them is to weaken them in battle but keep them from fading. Inflicting status ailments is another plus, with different ones working better than others, paralysis, sleep, and frozen being the best. But we now have access to Pokeballs, so we run back to the Pokemart and run back to Route 1 to hopefully get our second Pokemon that we need for this run, Yellow's first Pokemon. We run into a level 2 Rattata and we easily catch it, and we name him Ratty. In the manga, Ratty is Yellow's first Pokemon. Red was even the one who helped catch him in the first place. We have 2 of our regulated 6 that we can now use, so now that our starting party is truly complete, we can head into the first real area of the game, the Viridian Forest. A slight maze of trees full of bug and burb Pokemon all around, maybe even a Pikachu if you're playing a different version. But what really matters now are the trainer battles. Once they lock eyes on you, it's on. Unlike wild Pokemon, a trainer like you can have 1 through 6 Pokemon on them at a time, and the battle ends when either of you run out. Just like wild battles, each of you take a turn, but now that trainers exist, like you, they could choose to use an item if they so want to. You could choose to swap them out, or the very basics, attack with the 4 moves that you're able to use against each other. But unlike wild battles, you cannot choose to run away. Pokemon is a bit simple of a game, so if you want more challenge instead of the shift battle setting, you can go into the options and use the set battle setting. Shift lets you change Pokemon after you defeat an opponent at no cost while knowing who they're about to send out next, and set means your current Pokemon stays out until you use a return to swap them yourself no matter what. But as we make our way through the forest, we run into our second Pokemon that we can catch, a Caterpie. Ratty quickly puts in the work, and now Kitty, the Caterpie, has joined our team. Kitty's a great nickname, perfect localization on that one. For Caterpie, which shares the same Japanese and English name, the nickname in Japanese is Pitsuke. Whoever localized it at the time added ty at the end of most names like Ratty, so Kitty sounds cuter than Catty. I think so. I think that's a very cute and fun fact that I just gave you. Now that we have half of a team, we can make our way through this forest easy peasy. Kitty even manages to evolve into a Metapod before we leave. Evolution is another big aspect of Pokemon. Not all of them are able to do it, but with enough experience points, a stone, or even trading a Pokemon with a real-life person, they may evolve into a stronger form. As we make our way out of the forest, we come upon the Stone Gray Pewter City. I always enjoyed seeing the changing color palette on my Game Boy Color when I played this game. It helps each town stand out from each other. Being the eager guy that I am, I want to see how far I could take the gym battle with my current team. So with my 2 rats and a bug, let's tackle our first gym challenge. And we lose horribly to the first gym trainer. I have nothing to help against rock-type Pokemon at the moment. Gyms are weird. In this game, there's no narrative reason to really go to them, they're just gameplay blockers to keep you gated. For some reason, I don't compare Pokemon to most standard RPGs. It might be the lackadaisical nature of the game wanting you to just go out and explore its world, along with its realistic, big quotation marks, feel to it all. A place like Viridian Forest doesn't feel like a dungeon, and gym leaders kind of don't feel like bosses. or at least they didn't when I was a kid. And while I know better now, that simple, undefined feeling is something that I really like about the series as a whole. Pokemon typically gives you one goal, try to complete the Pokédex, but that's something most people don't even bother with. Even with Gen 1, it just feels like the game wants you to explore what's in it and find any Pokemon and secrets that lie within. Or I could just be forgetting an optional fight that's really easy to miss and sets up why there's gyms in this world in the first place. I wonder what Gary's doing. But back to the gameplay, I'm forced to do an RPG pastime, which is grinding, killing enemies until I level up enough to handle the current challenge keeping me from progressing the game. In the original version, people sometimes treat the starters as difficulty modes because of the type matchups, but for me, who's always played yellow, having a bad matchup for Brock was always a matter of tedium. So as we battle the Pokemon outside of town and visit the Science Museum for the sake of culture, Kitty manages to evolve into Butterfree, who gains a second flying type, but more importantly, the move Confusion to carry us through our battle. With this one move, the gym trainers mean nothing to us, and luckily Brock's rock-type Pokemon have no rock-type moves, so there's nothing to really fear. With a little bit of teamwork, our special type attack Confusion eats right through their defense, gaining us the Boulder Badge. Along with the badge, we gain TM34, Bide. TMs, technical machines, are items that allow your Pokemon to instantly learn moves if they're compatible, unlike gaining them through level ups. It teaches your Pokemon moves it could never learn on its own, allowing it to be more flexible. Now we can make our way to Mount Moon, but we should be careful, there are thieves afoot. The path is simple and there's a convenient Pokemon Center just outside the mountain. I forgot Gen 1 even did this. Convenient healing spots like this don't really show up again until Gen 4. We walk inside and it only takes a few steps for us to run into the very annoying and very pleasant Zubat, but that's not who we're here for. We came here for them, Clefairy. Blue's Cleffy is our first non-yellow Pokemon of this run. Sure, we're doubling down on normal types, but at this point in the game, just having more Pokemon is worth it. As we make our way through the mountain, we run into Pokemon Gangsters, Team Rocket. They seem to be looking for a fossil. And hey, look, we found it! 2 of them even, but this nerd doesn't seem to want to share, so we force him to. After we win, we pick up the Helix fossil and we try to leave, but we run into 2 special Team Rocket grunts, Jesse and James. Pokemon Yellow doesn't so much follow the anime as much as it throws Pokemon anime things at you. You have a mandatory Pikachu, Brock's team only has a Geodude and an Onix, and Jesse and James show up from time to time. In a case like this, it's technically harder than normal because the nerd is normally the last challenge in Mount Moon. Extra challenge or not, we beat them and make our way out of the cave and hit Cerulean City. There seems to be a commotion going on in town, but there's also a gym. Let's scout north a little bit first, and oh look, here's Gary. Let's see how strong and smart his Pokemon actually are. Yep, pretty strong and smart. He tells us that the creator of the Pokemon box system lives up ahead and tells us to go give our thanks. Oddly respectful of him, but let's go face that gym instead. You'd think that with a Pikachu around, I wouldn't worry about a water-type gym, and it's true for the gym trainers. Pika doesn't even have to battle. It's only when we face Misty herself do things start to ramp up, and even then, it's only when she throws out her level 21 Starmie. This is a 5-level difference on everyone in my party. Thanks to the power of teamwork, we first try the gym battle and win the Cascade badge anyway. Personally, I only like grinding in my strategy RPGs, so I'm doing my best to avoid it until I hit a wall that I can't overcome with strategy, like Brock. Pokemon's a pretty easy game, but if you hold back sometimes, you can pull a bit of challenge out of it. This run is making me use items way more than I normally do, but with that over, let's go give our thanks like Gary suggested. Nugget Bridge would be a better gauntlet if we weren't able to heal after every battle, but afterwards we get the aforementioned Nugget and an invitation to Team Rocket. Bold of them to call themselves evil out loud, but after such taxing battles, we can head back to town and pick up something nice. A new party member, Bulbasaur, the first real edition of Red's Pokemon team, nicknamed Soar. We need to have Pika's happiness level to be high enough for the caretaker to give him to us. We head back up north and run into someone who gives us one of Green's Pokemon, Charmander. No nickname for him. With him added, we have a full team on hand. We make our way to Bill's house while constantly switching in Sar and Charmander to split EXP. It's a bit grueling and painful, but we get there nonetheless. And once we get inside, we find a talking Pokemon. Have you guys ever heard of the movie The Fly? Because I've never seen it myself personally. After a quick joke, we meet Bill for real. For helping him get back to normal, he gives us tickets for the SS Sand in Vermilion City. We make our way back to town once more, and the Officer Jenny that was blocking the home seems to be slacking off even more than before because we can now move through the crime scene and we run off the Predator ourselves. We head south to reach the underground walkway that connects Cerulean and Vermilion City. Just as we get out of the quiet path, we run into a trainer and they have just enough points for Charmander to evolve into Charmeleon. And with the next battle, our Sora becomes Ivysaur. A few battles later, we've reached Vermilion City itself. We take a quick look around, learn some moves, get a bicycle voucher for the shop in Cerulean City, and then we board the SS Anne. It's just docked for now, and the people on board are itching for something to do. It's getting a bit rough on me, so I decide to evolve Clefairy into Clefable with the Moonstone we picked up at Mount Moon. And this game goes out of its way to quickly reinforce my choices. But all of this fighting isn't for naught as Ratty manages to level up into Raticate as well. As we continue our exploration, we run into Gary once again. He brags about how many Pokemon he's caught and starts another battle. However, this time we're a bit closer to matching his level. After the battle, he tells us where to get the hidden machine for Cut and that he'll smell us later. We go and see the captain who is suffering from seasickness. Irony. So with a little pat on the back, he feels well enough to give us our first HM, Cut. HMs allow you to use certain Pokemon moves outside of battle. You need the corresponding gym badge to use them, and the Cascade badge is relocated to Cut. We teach this to Sora and head to the gym in town. We take out most of the gym trainers before being taken out ourselves, and we quickly come back to dig through the garbage until we find the switch that opens the doors to the gym leader room. Just like the anime, Lieutenant Surge has a grossly strong Raichu, but with attacks that have special attributes such as Seismic Toss and Quick Attack, it's fairly easy battle. The Thunder badge is ours. Badges in this game also slightly boost stats, like speed for this one. Now that we've beaten the Lieutenant, if we talk to the Officer Jenny in town, she'll ask us to look after a Rambunctious Squirtle. At this point, I feel like naming it Turtley is a bit derivative, so we'll give it its Japanese name, Kame-chan. I think it's cuter that way. Kame-chan will be taking Cleffy's spot for Blue in this run. Pokemon Yellow really lets you live out your dream of having the ultimate Pokemon team with your journey. To be honest, my normal team is filled with mostly Red's Pokemon from the manga, along with the 3 starters. At this point, the game may feel more open, but in reality, it's just to find off that it's a bit more closed off than you think. We could head east and go to Route 11, but the other side of the gate is blocked. You can head back to Cerulean City to progress, or I decide to take a detour through Diglett Cave back to Route 2. The idea behind Diglett Cave is some pretty good world building, Pokemon building a natural habitat that people also use for themselves without fully disturbing them. It'd be nice if these Diglets didn't disturb me though. We come out on the other side of Route 2 that's blocked off by trees. If we head to the gate, we can find one of Professor Oak's aides and he'll give us HM5, Flash. Or at least they would have if I had room in my bag. The limitations of Pokemon's game design, both metaphorically and literally, has always been a thing that's been felt. I've also just been getting more items than I normally do in this game, like the map and even Flash itself. When I was little, I could go through the game without it, so I kind of forgot it was even here in the first place. But as we go back to Peter City to clean up our bag with the PC in the Pokemon Center, we also sneak into the back of the museum. They aren't too bothered by the fact that we're here, and I'm pretty sure we helped them commit a crime. But after all is said and done, we get what we came for, head back to Cerulean to get our bike, and head east. We finally make it to the rock tunnel. When we deal with the obvious problem of it being too dark, it's just a little more confusing than Mount Moon. Mostly just more dead ends for hardheads like me to run into who don't pick up Flash. And Flash itself is pretty good. Outside of battle, I normally give HMs like this to Pokemon who are regularly using them and only them, and while I don't think it's that bad in Gen 1 with this overall move pool, it still feels kinda bad. There's a good amount of Zubat and Rock-type Pokemon just wandering around, but what you really need to watch out for are the trainers that vary up the typing a lot. You can't just be worried about what you'll find out in the cave itself. Jesus Christ. Somehow, we've made our way to Lavender Town, home of the Pokemon Tower, a graveyard. Let's go check it out. Look, Gary's here too. After an interesting battle. Critical hit? Really? We try to continue to explore the tower, but we run into a spooky ghost that we aren't even able to comprehend, so we leave the tower for now. Now we have a choice. We can head south to Route 13 or west to Route 7. For the sake of this video, let's go through Route 7, and once again a gate is blocked. However, there is another underground path that connects us to Celadon City, the biggest city we've come to yet, and you can tell because criminals are just running around out in the open. We can head up to Celadon Mansion. That's not what that... It's time for Japanese with Hawk. A mansion is a type of apartment building in Japan, somewhere around mid-class range. Perfect for small families or teams working on projects like manga artists, or maybe even a small game developer. In fact, we meet the people who work on Pokemon in this building. Of course you like the girls. We all like the girls. If you go through the back and go all the way to the top, you can find a free Eevee. I could technically use him, but Red doesn't evolve his Eevee by this point in the story. His Eevee is genetically modified to be able to evolve freely into its 3 different forms using the elemental stones. We don't have that, and I already have everything its type could cover, so into the box you go. There's a department store where you can buy just about every item type in the game. Pretty sure this is the first time we've seen stat boosting items. One of them are permanent upgrades like HP up for health or car boost for speed, or ones that you use in battle like X accuracy or guard spec. You can buy TMs that the game doesn't describe for you for some reason. Just saves coming out. The more we explore the city, however, the worse it gets. We hop into a restaurant and find a guy who's lost everything and shoves his gambling addiction onto us. A child? So I guess it's time to play the slots, and man, the Game Boy Color really is putting in work on this screen. As we check the prizes, we see a weirdo by the poster. He battles us and reveals a secret passage, and what am I gonna do, not go in? It seems we found a hidden rocket base. It's a gauntlet of trainer battles and what is technically a sliding puzzle. And as we make our way to the end, we find the boss room. Team Rocket's leader, Giovanni. You could say he's a little tough, but we outnumber him by 3 Pokemon, so the battle isn't all that hard to win. He compliments us on our Pokemon, but says that we'll never understand him, but he hopes to meet us again. Weirdo. We pick up the Swift Scope and head back to our gym battle. As I battle my way through the gym and try not to be distracted by the creepy old man outside, we systematically destroy each gym trainer. It's getting to the point where the game forces you to fight quite a few of them, but it's best to just farm all of them for easy EXP. It makes sense that the department store where you can buy just about every item you would need would be in the same city based on status effects. Erika is pretty strong herself, but my strategy of being a head ass somehow gives me the win without much trouble. I could never do a Nuzlocke. I don't like grinding, and my battle strategy is to use a Pokemon without any inherent advantages or disadvantages first to weaken my opponent, and that is the very opposite way you play Pokemon. It also means I forget about type matchups a lot. But either way, we now have our Rainbow badge from my favorite gym leader. Very cute. I love her headband. Not her best version yet, but now we can go back to the Pokemon Tower. With the Silph Scope we got from Giovanni, we make our way back up once again. Not only do we have to fight ghosts, but trainers as well. Ghost Pokemon kinda have the short end of the stick this generation. They don't have many moves, and the ones they do have aren't that strong. And then you have to add in the fact that this game isn't as tightly coded as it could have been, because my plan is to Seismic Toss most of these ghosts to death. Because it's funny. Physical moves like Seismic Toss shouldn't work on ghosts, but who cares about that? As we keep going up, we run into an area that heals our Pokemon to full health when we step in it, and people say the new games are too easy. But seriously, Gen 1 will just throw you into the pit sometimes, and we need these areas. There are over 10 trainers in this tower, so even if I'm a little stronger than them, they push me to the limit, and a healing spot is really fair. With one more floor to head up to, we run into the same ghost that ran us off before. We use the Silph Scope to reveal it to be a wild Marowak. That's still a ghost, but not a ghost type, because it's a video game. Well, Sora had to sit the last gym out, so it's time for him to put in work. We defeated and sent its restless soul to the afterlife. If the afterlife is real, and ghosts exist, what exactly are ghost Pokemon? The mysteries of life and death aside, we head up to the top floor and we find Jesse and James again. Other than Mount Moon, these two have been making the game a bit easier. If they weren't here, we'd have to fight 3 battles against some grunts. We beat them up, rescue the old man Mr. Fuji who came here to put the Marowak to rest, and we take him back home. He rewards us with the Poke Flute. The Poke Flute will awaken any Pokemon in and outside of battle. It's a rare reusable item, don't get used to this. So, remember when I said we could have headed south before? Well, that would have only gotten us so far. We need this Poke Flute to awaken the Snorlax blocking our path. It's real mad and real tough, but we do manage to catch it. But by the way, did you guys know you can miss throwing a ball in this game? I forgot and almost crapped my pants. Red owns a Snorlax, and it'd be neat to have, but like many others, it goes inside the box. We make a quick cut over to Vermilion City because if we check the second floor of the gate station, we'll find another one of Professor Oak's aids. If you have 30 different Pokemon, he'll give you the item finder. It allows you to find hidden items on the map, like this one, but if you happen to already know where they are, you can just get them anytime, like that one. We continue down the dock to Silent Bridge, and I just have to ask, who makes a bridge like this, and who hangs out here? Routes 12 through 15 may be uneventful, but they're still very painful to battle through. But through our many trials and tribulations, we make it to Fuchsia City. That's over an hour of footage that's not getting much use at all. Editing RPGs is a pain in the ass. Now that we're in a new town, it's time to do what we always do. Everything we can except for the gym. We meet the fishing guru who gives us a good rod, kinda useless to us, but let's test it out for fun. We manage to snag a catch and it's a Magikarp, the king of carbs. We try again and we get a Poliwag. I want to catch this. I didn't catch this. Poliwag is Red's first Pokemon that he had himself, so it would have had sentimental value, but I can't have nice things. The big place Fuchsia City is known for is the Safari Zone. It's a special area where you can catch specific Pokemon, but you can't battle them. It's you, 30 balls, rocks, and Pokefood against what you want to catch. It's a pretty neat area, but for the sake of game progression, there are key items hidden here that we have to find, and you only have a certain number of steps you can take before your time is up. We make it to the end of the maze-like habitat to receive HM03 Surf, a water-type move that will allow you to move through the water with the right badge, but we also pick up some gold teeth while we're at it. With these teeth, we go meet the warden and he gives us HM04 Strength as a thank you. We can already use this outside of battle thanks to the Rainbow Badge. And speaking of badges, the Fuchsia City Gym is no pushover. I go and tackle it once and I get my butt beaten, so I go back to Route 15 to clean up some trainers that I left behind, which means this is technically not grinding. Technically. But with this done, Sora is the first of our leading trio to evolve into his final stage, Venusaur. With him ready to go, we can finally take on the Poison-type gym at full power. That's full of Psychic-type Pokemon. Not a lot of Poison types in this game, not a lot of Psychic types either. Either way, bring a bunch of antidotes. In my personal opinion, there's a bit of a difficulty spike after Celadon City. Koga is over 10 levels higher than my team average with his weakest Pokemon. The Venonat trio is really tough, but the Venomoth takes me out again. Why do these bugs know Psychic moves? Well, grinding won't help me, so the only thing I can hope to do is for a better run with less critical hits on their part. This is the most I've ever used stat-raising moves in a run in my life. Reddy comes in clutch with a critical Hyper Fang, and to rub my victory in Koga's face, Kitty deals the final blow. With the Soul Badge, we can use Surf outside of battle, so more of the map has opened up to us, but we still have things to do on the main land. Let's head west and go through routes 18, 17, and 16. In 18, we face a Doduo because it's one of Yellow's own Pokemon, even if I'm not going to use it. Route 17 is also known as Cycling Road, a giant downhill slope that only makes sense on your bike. As we pass through the terminal, we find a path that's blocked by another Snorlax. It's nice that the game gives you 2 tries to catch this beast, and now that we're stronger than before, he's not much of a problem. Also, because Razor Leaf is busted, it will crit 3 times out of 5. We cut our way into the upper path of Route 16 where we find a girl's secret retreat. She gives us HM02, Fly, to not tell anyone about it. With that, we've circled back around to Celadon City. If you didn't go to the roof of the department store, make a short stop there to give one of each drink to the little girl there. She gives you a TM for each one, and one of them is Ice Beam. Gonna want that. You're also going to want an extra drink for the terminal at the next city. You give it to the watchman and he finally lets you into Saffron City. If Celadon was wide, Saffron is tall. Buildings tower this modern cityscape, and just like the Green Town, this place also seems to have a Team Rocket problem. We take a little trek around the city and see what we can find. A man named Mr. Psychic gives us a very useful TM. I bet you can't guess what it is, but Kitty really enjoys it. The more we look around, the harsher the city becomes. Unlike Celadon, Team Rocket has fully taken over this town and blocked us out of some buildings. The people here aren't too happy. They even block an entrance to a gym. So we'll just go to the one right next to it. The fighting dojo filled with fighting type Pokemon. Good timing, Kitty is more than ready to deal with them. Our reward for making it to the end is a choice between a Hitmonchan or a Hitmonlee. We take Bruce Lee, put it in a box, and finally head into the Silphco building to find out what's going on. Silphco is a tech company and their building is pretty state-of-the-art. It's full of teleporters that will send you to different floors and rooms. You also have to find keys to make your way through, like in the underground lair as well. All the training we did really paid off as we're over-leveled for most of these grunts by a safe margin, and I technically didn't grind a bit. Trainer battles are a finite resource, I technically didn't grind. All of these fights are enough to push Charmeleon and Kamechan over the edge to evolve themselves. If there's one thing that I really enjoy about this area, it's that it's actually being taken over. You find people hiding, research notes laying about, it really makes you feel like you're stopping a major event. The scientists really play into this idea. Some feel like defectors, while others feel like they don't know what's going on, while some of them are even in disguise. Either way, we find out that Team Rocket's broken in here to steal the Master Ball, a Pokeball that can catch any Pokemon, and while this horrible thing is going on, Gary ambushes us for another battle. Now's not the time, my guy. Honestly, if this is where you chose to have your difficulty spike, it's kinda rough. I'd rather be in Fuchsia City where there's a Pokemon Center right next to the gym, because Gary's pretty strong and we're at level for him. After a battle, he makes a comment about us being ready to fight Rocket's boss, and says that he'll leave things to us while he heads to the Pokemon League to beat the Elite Four. Gary's really giving me mixed signals. We talk to the man in the room and he gives us a Lapras as thanks for trying to save him, and then we take the teleporter into the boardroom. Jesse and James try to stop us one more time, but they aren't a problem. We cut in on Giovanni trying to get the Master Ball from the President and start our battle. Giovanni likes to use items, but they aren't very effective to my critical hits, status ailments, and type advantage. Even with a fairly strong Nidoqueen, we take him down pretty easily. He leaves declaring that we haven't seen the last of Team Rocket, and the President gives us the Master Ball as a thank you. See, all you had to do was save his life. It's easy. With the city now safe, the only thing left to do is to face Sabrina, the Psychic-type gym leader. I'd say bring a Ghost Pokemon, but they aren't that useful. But having a strong wall while you heal your other Pokemon is worth it. But when it comes to attacking, you should be using physical attacks. Her gym is based off the teleportation from the Silphco building, so let's use this time to talk about stats. Gen 1 stats seem simple, but they're a bit hard to parse through sometimes. You have a simple attack, defense, speed, and special stat. It's really the special stat that needs to be talked about because it works both for offensive special attacks and your special defense. Having moves that lower it in this game is kinda mean when you think about it. But more than that, an attack's typing will affect whether it uses the attack stat or the special stat. That means certain Pokemon can't use their type advantages to the fullest. Butterfree and Charizard are perfect examples. Butterfree has a naturally high special stat, but Bug and Flying type moves use the normal attack stat. Charizard has a high attack stat, but Fire is special. He at least gets a Flying type, so that's where his physical comes in. It's not too much of a problem for the base game, but it's little things like that that have damage sneaking up on you, whether it's a lot or not enough. I know I talked over it, but do you guys ever think about how this world is full of psychics? Like, I'm starting to think that Pokemon aren't as special as we think they are. I think those people at the dojo might fight Pokemon with their bare hands. Where's that Pokemon game at? Let me fight them with my hands or my mind. Either way, we finally make it to Sabrina, and the reason that we've saved her for now is because she has the full Abra line at level 50. They have a high special stat, so you want to focus on physical moves, but generally, Pokemon like that have a low special stat, so it becomes a battle of speed and endurance. But with Ratty's speed and Charizard's luck, we take her down with no losses. We get the Marsh Badge, the TM Psywave, and the game reinforces my idea of giving player characters some form of power. It would have been fun to replace some HMs with Psychic Power, or Light Super Strength. I don't know, something wacky. It's time to move forward, so we'll be heading back to Fuchsia City and heading down to Route 19, a water route. Water routes in Pokemon are kinda dull to me. Every panel has RNG encounters like caves, but it feels like they take longer to get through. Even the trainers mostly just carry water Pokemon with them. It's all so predictable. Well, by now you can buy a bunch of repels to ward off Pokemon that aren't worth fighting in the first place. It almost makes this journey relaxing. We trek through the waters until we hit the Seafoam Islands. It's another RPG pastime, extra dungeons. The Seafoam Islands have nothing to do with game progression, so coming here is a form of extra training for the game to come, and it will be worth it. Other than Zubat, it's full of nothing but water Pokemon and strength rock pushing puzzles. If you came here to fight, don't be afraid to use your escape rope to leave and head back to Fuchsia City to heal up and get more items. I taught Ratty Dig just for this occasion, and it's only dawned on me when reviewing this footage, but Dig is really broken in this game, and in Gen 1 it returns you to the Pokemon Center. I don't know why they nerfed it. I mean, I know why, but why? Back to the island. The reason we're pushing all these boulders is to stop the water current from pushing us away from our goal, the legendary bird Pokemon Articuno. Legendary Pokemon are abnormally strong and there's only one of them per game, a bit different than the 2 Snorlaxes. Add in an extremely low catch rate and you have a large pain in the ass coming your way, but with Kame-chan's high defense, we're able to catch it in one. Now all we need to do is find the other exit and we're off to Route 20. After leaving a large line of destroyed trainers in our wake, we finally reach Cinnabar Island. We settle in and check out the Pokemon Lab, a place where people research Pokemon founded by Dr. Fuji. Could it be that this guy is somehow related to Mr. Fuji in Lavender Town? Small world, am I right? Jokes aside, we snoop around through their lab. We find an email telling us that there are 2 other legendary bird Pokemon out there waiting for us, and there may be something in the cave next to Cerulean City. We also get the TM Metronome, which leaves me asking more questions. It tweaks the Pokemon's brain so it can use a random move. How are TMs made? How do Pokemon actually make their moves come out? But the last room is the real reason we came here. We hand the scientist our Helix fossil and with it he's able to restore it into an Ammonite. Yellow manages to get one in their journey and with him I think I've captured their entire team. I think. She has a Graveler and I'm sure I caught a Geodude somewhere, maybe. Red also has an Aerodactyl, so he's with us in spirit too, I guess. As we wait for the resurrection machine to do its job, we try and challenge the gym but the doors seem to be locked. Well, if that's the case, the only thing left for us to do is to check the burnt out building at the edge of town, the Pokemon Mansion, and this time it's not a funny localization quirk. The Pokemon Mansion is treated like a cave, so don't forget your repels if you aren't willing to catch anything. The only good things here are Growlithe on the ground floor and Dittos at its lowest level. This place's gimmick is switches that lock and unlock certain doors and you have to make your way to the lowest area. It's filled with scientists and burglars, so it's filled with burglars. I know what some scientists are all about. Well, they all aren't so bad. Both give you tips on how to proceed through the mansion. Jump off, he says. As we keep searching around, we find these journals talking about a rare Pokemon found in Guana, South America. Remember when these games took place in a modified version of the real world? I mean, they still do, but no one's referencing real places anymore. They did some experiments on this Pokemon and created a brand new one of their own. They couldn't control it, and if I had to guess, it was the one to destroy this place. We keep running around until we find the secret key, the gym key. Why is this here? We run back to pick off Ammonite to drop him off in the box, and we drop off the Amber here. We'll never see you again, Aerodactyl. Goodbye. It's time to take on the 7th gym. Blaine's gym is a test of your knowledge of the game with simple quizzes. If you get the answer right, you don't have to battle any of the gym trainers. Or you can get them all right anyway and beat them up. Blaine's a simple man who uses fire-type Pokemon. He's pretty straightforward for someone so late in the game, but don't underestimate him. His Pokemon will likely be stronger than yours by about over 5 levels. He took down most of my team because I'm just built different, but we win and receive the Volcano Badge anyway. After that, the only place left to go is north through Route 21, a simple route full of swimmers, but at the end of it all, we managed to circle our way back home to Pallet Town. The plot would move us towards Viridian City, but let's follow the lead from one of those computers in the Poke Lab. We fly to Cerulean City and follow Route 19 to the lake's edge, surf down past the rock tunnel, and find land that leads us to the abandoned power plant, another optional dungeon. The power plant is pretty straightforward. You move around these fallen rocks trying to dodge electric and poison Pokemon. The trick here is that some of the items on the ground are actually disguised Voltorbs and Electrodes. It's pretty easy to dodge fights here if you don't want to bother, but little training goes a long way. At the end of this excursion, we find the second legendary bird, Zapdos, electric flying type that's a bit harder to deal with because of my team setup, but I manage and we're on our way back to Viridian City. It seems that the gym leader has returned and it's time for us to get our final gym badge. The Viridian Gym focuses on ground-type Pokemon and it has a familiar sliding puzzle. This gym reminds you that there aren't a lot of certain types of Pokemon in this game, so they make up for it with their moves. Thanks to our training, these guys aren't too strong, but some of them get close to our level. But as we approach the gym leader, we see a familiar sprite. The Viridian Gym leader is none other than Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket. He plans to resurrect his team and is ready to get us out of his way. Giovanni eclipses us much like Sabrina, but his team is built with fully evolved Pokemon. But being ground type means that you take them out in the opposite way. Special attack him with everything you have and watch out for his annoying Persian. After a slightly intense battle, we manage to take him down and he rewards us with the Earth Badge. One thing I didn't mention was that traded Pokemon of a certain level won't always follow your orders in battles. Certain badges guarantee that a Pokemon up to a certain level will always obey you, and with the Earth Badge, all of them will. The deal is that you will never really reach this level during normal play. Even the 50% bonus EXP of a traded Pokemon won't reach those kinds of levels unless you did it early in the game. It's to keep things balanced for when you trade over extremely strong Pokemon to help another out. Back to the plot, Giovanni declares that he will disband Team Rocket forever and will devote his life to Pokemon and disappears. A little abrupt. With the rest of the map mostly cleared out, the only thing left for us to do is go through Route 22 and reach the Pokemon League. And just as we set foot on it, we run into Gary. He always seems to be one step ahead. He says he wants the battle to loosen up and we take him up on that offer. His full team is just a bit stronger than us, but with some smart and not so smart plays, we get the win with little losses. We heal up and continue west until we reach the league's front gate. To reach the league itself, we first have to pass through checkpoints proving that we've gathered all of the badges. Once you hit the water, you can even catch Pokemon here. There's even patches of grass that have Pokemon that pop up in their mid-40s. But all of this is just a preamble to see if you're ready to handle the challenge of Victory Road, a cave that puts both your brain and Pokemon to one final test. I mean really, there's a sliding puzzle right as you enter. This is the best they have. While yes, these puzzles have progressively been getting more difficult, it's still not my favorite. It's the trainers, however, that you really have to worry about because they're at level, at least for me. But there's one more thing that we want in this cave just as much as the exit. The last of the legendary birds rests here, Moltres. The Firebird isn't too hard to bring down to catching range. One Surf and a few bites from Kame-chan do the job. Pikachu even gets in a good Thunder Wave. It's just, catching it is the worst out of the bunch. But I somehow managed to get out of here without any Pokemon fading. We finally made it, the Indigo Plateau, the highest authority of the Pokemon League. As we enter the main building, we find this guy who's been cheering us on the whole time in the background of each gym. He tells us that to conquer the league we have to beat the Elite Four in succession, and if you lose even once, we have to start all over. This area has everything you need to prepare for your battle. A Pokemon Center and a shop full of items, so heal and pack up, it's time to become a champion. Pikachu is ready, and so am I. First up is the cool beauty of an Ice-type trainer, Lorelei. A party of 5 Pokemon drastically stronger than me. My normal playstyle will have to be put on hold. Charizard would be perfect for an Ice trainer, but in Gen 1 most of them have dual water typings, so that means that this will mostly be up to Pikachu, Ratty, and Kame-chan. With some good critical hits and self-inflicted statuses, Pikachu is able to take out 2 of her mons with ease. Sora takes out her Slowbro, and Charizard prepares to take out Jinx. But if you paid attention to my first assessment of Charizard, you may have realized that I've made a fatal mistake, because in Generation 1, fire doesn't resist ice. Charizard may attack first, but it's not enough to kill, and it takes a super effective Ice Punch and ends up being frozen. But by the power of a fully restore and me being stubborn, Charizard makes it out on top. It's time for her final Pokemon, Lapras. Because Lapras is a tank, it's hard for me to get definitive hits on it, and after making another horrible mistake, and having a pointless battle of attrition, Sora proves to be faster than expected and manages to take the win. 4 of my Pokemon are taken out and 1's almost dead. I have items for this, but it's not looking too good for me. Our next opponent is the skilled fighter Bruno. Hoo-ha! Once again, typings are sparse, so he starts off with an Onyx, but Kame-chan easily takes it down. Next up is his Hitmonchan, so we bring out our big hitter, Kitty. We both have the same idea to raise our defense, and it proves correct when it uses Fire Punch, but even if it's super effective, it's not strong enough for our Psychic attack. The others get a few hits in, but Kitty is the MVP of this battle. His final Mon is a Machamp, and Kitty almost pulls through with its speed, but it does more than enough work for Pikachu to make the final hit. Overall, that battle went over way better than the last one. My confidence is restored. We're halfway through, and next up is the ghostly elder Agatha. She has the only dialogue that carries any narrative to it about how she knew Professor Oak when she was younger and how he's wrong for quitting Pokemon battles. It's not like he's our grandpa, but either way, Agatha may be a ghost master, but the trait that all of her Pokemon have in common is poison typing, so watch out for that. A lot of my team sees battle from Kitty, who manages to get over Gengar's constant use of Substitute, to Pika, who has no problem taking out her Golbat. It's when she finally throws out her level 60 Gengar that things get hairy when Kitty is put to sleep just before she can take the final blow. We do a little song and dance, and Kitty manages to land out on top at the end of it all. I'm running low on healing items, but with this we finally reach the leader of the Elite Four, the Dragon Master, Lance. Dragons are way more than just pretty strong in Generation 1. They resist every starting Pokemon type in every version of this game, and they are only weak to Ice. I'd like to say that they're weak to other dragons, but Dragon Rage only deals 40 HP of damage, so good luck with that. It was a long and hard battle with a bunch of good hits, but in the end we lose. The thing that stood out to me the most was the fact that in Generation 1, Hyper Beam doesn't have to recharge if you knock out your opponent's Pokemon, and Lance loves to use Hyper Beam. As I wallow in defeat, I think to myself, what can I do? How can I continue? I try to grind a bit in Victory Road, but there's nowhere near enough EXP for me to feel okay with doing that. So I do the only thing I can. I restart my game, I load up my save, and I try again. Learning from my past mistakes, I pull out the greatest move in any RPG, dare I say any video game even, knowing what happens beforehand. We reach Lance once more and it's on. Gyarados misses his Hyper Beam and Pika gets a clean win. The twin Dragonairs try to get past Ratty with their own Hyper Beams, but they aren't strong enough to put him down in one hit, and they are also taken out. Aerodactyl's speed is annoying, but Kame-chan manages to drown him with Surf, and we finally return to his Dragonite. Ratty had the best chance last time, and it seems luck is on our side. He survives the Thunder attack and pulls off a Blizzard to get us the victory. Luck is a blessing. Now with Lance defeated, we can become the Pokemon League champion. Or we would if Gary hadn't beaten us to it first. Much like boxing, even if you hold the #1 ranking, that doesn't mean you're the champion. Because I had an easier time this go around, I have way more items to use and heal up and prepare for battle. We head into the next room and confront our everlasting rival. He tells us that it makes sense that we would meet here, that he searched all over and built up the perfect team, that he's the most powerful trainer in the world. We start battle with Sandshrew against our Kame-chan. Even with over a 15 level difference, he isn't fast enough to outrun our critical Surf attack, and we put him down. Next is Alakazam against our Charizard. It uses Kinesis to lower our accuracy, and it works out in his favor, barely managing to take a win after a prolonged back and forth. I sent in Pika hoping to outspeed it, but we almost bit off more than we could chew, barely taking out the Psychic Pokemon. His next Pokemon is Exeggutor, and I plan to sacrifice Pika to bring back Charizard, but they attack with Leech Seed. Pika is able to switch out alright, and Charizard dodges the Hypnosis. 2 flamethrowers and 1 crit later puts the Palm Tree Pokemon down. Magneton is his next pick, and we go for Battle of Attrition with Soar. I use the time to heal up Pika, and it seems to be a smooth battle until Magneton starts to use Screech. I was a little worried, but it seemed the AI borked out and that's all it could ever do, so see you later. We send out Ratty against his Cloyster just for the sake of variety, but they are taken down by a combination of Aurora and Ice Beams, but not before they take down half of his health. Pika does its best to try and clean up, but it's also taken out. Sora manages to get another wind under his belt, and we finally reach his Flareon. I play with it a little bit with Charizard and I do my best with Pika, but it's futile. Kame-chan comes in to end it all and we manage to defeat our rival for the last time. With this victory, we are the Pokemon League champion. Gary questioned why he lost, but accepts it all the same. Professor Oak congratulates us on our victory and scolds Gary on some nonsense about not caring about his Pokemon enough. It's really weird when you think about Gary as a character. Whatever. He leads us into the next room and we can even engrave our names and Pokemon into the Hall of Fame. With that, the credits start to roll, but that is the end of our adventure. We have one more loose end to clean up. If you remember correctly, the email at the Pokemon Lab said that there's something about the cave near Cerulean City. Let's go back and check it out. If you come to this cave earlier, there's someone outside who tells you that it's super dangerous and only the Pokemon League champion can enter. Now that we are they, we can enter. And he wasn't joking. Pokemon are in their 50s and 60s. Making your way through is pretty straightforward, no tricks or puzzles, just a grueling gauntlet that even Repel can't help you against. But as we make our way through, we find our final destination, a lone Pokemon on a watery island, the genetically modified Pokemon that escaped the Pokemon Mansion, Mewtwo. When I say it out loud, I can't get over its name, it's funny. Either way, we have to battle a level 70 Psychic Pokemon with absurdly high stats, and catch it. I'm sure most of you know what the deal is. We start off with Kame-chan and we start by literally testing the water with Surf. It's rough, and the combination of recovery and barrier makes it rougher. Freezing it is our only option. It's not, but it's the Hail Mary pass that I want it to be. And after trying again and again and again, it eventually works. I try to do a bit more damage, but truly it's futile, so I go for broke, throw the Ultra Ball, and for the sake of dramatics, 1, 2, 3, we get it in one catch. I don't know how to feel about this, but with that done, we've pretty much beaten all of Pokemon Yellow. Pokemon Yellow is a full-blown nostalgia trip for me, and for a lot of people I assume. It's simplistic to a fault, to almost its detriment even. There's hardly a narrative. You go out, you find Pokemon, almost everything blocking your way forward is expected of a video game more so than weaving a compelling story. The gyms are your boss battles, gating off progress, and Team Rocket feels like an extra excuse to do the same thing, but both of them still try to surprise you with each new encounter. From having Blaine's Gym Key be hidden in the Pokemon Mansion, to Giovanni being the secret 8th gym leader from the first ever gym you walk by. I thought this by like the time I was a teenager, but Gary's nowhere near as bad as people like to make him out to be. But from a gameplay and story direction, Gary's the perfect rival who's always one step ahead of you, constantly pulling you forward. Overall, I really enjoy this feeling of creating your own narrative with your own Pokemon. Everyone's playthrough has a large chance of being different from one another just by the amount of Pokemon you can get, and in the case of Gen 1, you can switch up gym orders just a little bit near the end. Add in the world building and a bit of information that's included with just about every conversation, you end up with a pretty realized world for a Game Boy game. As for the gameplay, it's a little dated, but its simplistic nature makes it really easy to go back to. I think it's really well designed in how it wants you to go through the world and how it sets everything up for you to encounter when and where, too. In my opinion, Pokemon's greatest strength is how fair of a video game it is. There's hardly anything hidden from you, the player, and the game hardly cheats for the sake of challenge. If there's something your enemy can do, you can do it too through training, trading, or just thinking things through a little more. Pokemon is an incredibly simple game to wrap your head around that anyone can play it with little instruction. This run has been fun, and while I recorded it years ago, it's kept me in a Pokemon mood that's lasted through Legends Arceus and Scarlet. I played this game in a way that I'm not used to, and it was interesting even if it wasn't a super cool Nuzlocke run. I still felt like I wanted to share it. The manga has also been very interesting, so I also recommend you check that out as well. Who knows, you might even be able to find out how they differ from the games. But until we meet again, Matao, until we meet again.